Hello, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, regardless whether of the time zone that you are in at the moment. Welcome to our today's BA and Product Management Conference. I hope this will be an exciting event. My name is Jan Mazurek, and I will have the privilege of being the host of today's meeting. Today, we would like to present to you the topic of the fraud syndrome in the BA practice. Business analysis require close collaboration between people and the technology, and a successful product run places a large responsibility on the business analysts. It is common for a BA to feel that we do not deserve praise, thinking our good outcomes are due to our circumstances and not to our merit. This is what is called fraud syndrome. And today, Gennadii Kobzar will provide us more information on this topic. I encourage you to take participation in our Community Z portal to ask the questions in the Q&A section. And at the end of the presentation, I will be addressing those questions that you will raise to our speaker today. Gennadii, the stage is all yours. Thank you for being with us today. And I wish you a good presentation. And to our audience, I wish good reception of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jan. So, hi all. As Jan previously said, today we have a quite interesting subject, as I think, fraud syndrome in BX practice. And let me introduce myself. So, my name is Gennadii Kobzar. I'm a senior business analyst in EPAM, in Digital Engagement Practice Department. Also, I'm certified product owner. And I want to start my speech from a little collaboration with you guys. So I would ask you to take your phones, to go to the menti.com and enter this code 58338114. So you'll see a slide with one simple question. Do you know what is it? By what is it, I mean, do you know what fraud syndrome is? So I want to know the distribution of my audience, and I will understand how to provide my speech further. So please enter the menti.com. So we'll have, I guess, 1 to 2 minutes to accumulate some information. I will collapse my presentation and open Internet. Okay. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. Nice. So we have almost 50-50. And I hope it will be quite interesting for those guys who are not aware of it yet. And it should be interesting for those who are aware in terms of some solutions and some practices. Okay, let's wait for 1 more minute to see the final stats. Okay, perfect. So the ratio is the same, I see. We have 59 respondents. Okay, so I guess it's enough. Thank you guys for your participation. Let's go further. Let me open my presentation full screen. Okay, so our plan for today, our agenda is to talk about fraud syndrome. So to prepare a sort of overview, to discuss the roots, discuss solutions, and to summarize everything. And starting from our overview, the goal. So the goal of our meeting today, and I guess idea of what should be received here from you guys is to get familiar with the statement, to be ready to identify it and mitigate it in the practice. So pretty simple, I guess. Okay, so let's discuss what is it, basically. It is continuous individual feeling of inadequate success recognized because of luck or some random events, being in the proper time and proper place, and not because of your talents and skills. It's a very interesting scenario, and I guess it's more about to be psychological rather than practical. And the idea that when you receive sort of a recognition for your some outcomes, you may feel that you are not well, feeling that it's right and it's yours. So you think that, okay, somebody awarded me because there's some events and there's some random events and some luck basically, but not because you are a quite good professional. And it is quite a wide situation across all over the skills, experience, expertise, and age. So it's not about to be only about junior BAs, for example, some young people. So it's applicable to a wider scenario. And talking further, Freud syndrome is not recognized as a disease. I mean, you won't find it in international classification of diseases as ICD in short. However, it may be addressed to your physician if there's some need. If you feel that it's too complicated and you need some help, you can address it to your physician. And the next question, so it will be last collaboration in MNT for today. However, let's go again and let's answer the question like, have you ever faced with it in practice? So let me open my Menti. Okay. So I update it and you can go to the Menti. Yeah, and answer. Okay. So it's quite common feeling as I see. That's why I decided to prepare this topic. Okay. Okay, so we see very interesting situation. So my first question was, do you know what is it? And there was a ratio of 50-50. So half of the audience didn't know what is it. However, as I see, the vast majority have faced it, even without understanding that it is. So it's quite good. I mean, not good, it's quite good in terms of our meeting, because you will know why it's happening and how to deal with it. So as I see, yeah, the ratio is pretty the same as on the start. The vast majority of people have faced it. Okay, I guess we can stop with voting. So I see the audience is pretty demandful. So let's continue. Okay, thank you for your participation. Okay, so I want to start with some famous people. And Albert Einstein was, I guess it's quite famous. And he was always telling that the exaggerated esteem in which my life work is held makes me very ill at ease. I feel compelled to think of myself as an involuntary swindler. So he felt, because of this impression of others, because of everybody thinks that his work is quite important, he always thinks that it is overestimated. So he thought that he's just a guy doing some work, however others thinking that he's very, very, very important, and it makes him feel wrong, because he thought that he's an involuntary swindler. So it's not only about some regular work. So even famous people, I guess, not only Albert Einstein, but a lot of other people, I mean, standing from, I don't know, actors maybe, or CEOs, or doctors, or others, have the same feelings. Why does it matter? So the idea, why have we gathered here? Let me move our video. So the main concept here, that is very important, not only BAs, however it's called BAs, but I want to separate it. It is applicable for all professions, but in our practice, in our meeting today, we will talk about BAs, product managers, and product owners. And it's the same applicable for all of these professions. And why does it matter? So it is matter because it can cause repulsion, it can cause avoiding responsibility, it can cause fear of growth and demotivation. And as an outcome of it, so repulsion can lead us to slow the pace down in our work, of course. avoiding responsibility can lead us to falling with leadership, and fear of growth can lead us to avoiding new initiatives in the project, in the companies, what doesn't matter, in the product. And the motivation as a fact can lead us to a lower performance. That's why we need to understand what is it, how to identify it, and how to mitigate it. So it should be some practical value here. Oh, sorry. Roots. So let's talk about roots. Why we're feeling it, why it's showing up, and why, as we can see, a lot of people here in the meeting can face it and faced it in practice as well. So the first and very common root is childhood. So everything, everything standing us is made from childhood. So a lot of activities in childhood are basically shown up how and what will be our further initiatives. So for example, I've dedicated only three: comparison, humiliation, and underestimation. However, it's more, of course. But let's talk in details. So comparison, the root here is when we were child and maybe you are parents and you may notice that you are talking with your kids the same way. So it may lead them to the same feeling in the future. So let's avoid it. And the first one is comparison. So for example, he's dealing with the task faster. So when your kid, for example, trying to do something, for example, in the kindergarten or in school, in the early school, and kids by design they try to do their best. For example, they're drawing something, and adults in the same way they see that their outcome is not as expected from the adult's point of view, and they try to compare. Kids, for example, he's dealing with the task faster, or this guy makes something better than you. And we may think that, or adults may think that it's not a big deal. We just compare. However, from the kids' point of view, from the kids' psychology, it's very important, and it's not a good way to compare kids because kid in his manner is doing the best. However, you may think that it's not the best for some reason, and it's not a point to compare. The second is humiliation. It's leading from the comparison, I guess. So the idea here is that adults can humiliate kids in some involuntary way, for example. Like you can see, awful, it makes me embarrassed for some reason. Yeah, so some kid may do something, some wrong, and it's not because he want to make it wrong. It's just a kid, so it's how he understands or she understands the things and how he should react on the things. However, adults may react inadequately and start humiliated, involuntary, of course, or voluntary, which is worse. So like awful, it makes me embarrassed, and it's not a good way to do it. And the last one is underestimation, like so it can be done better, for example. And it's also a wrong pattern because kids are trying to do their best, of course, and you need to understand that you have different point of views. I mean, childhood and adult, and so you need to understand that, for example, some activities that your kid performs is the best he can do, and you need to estimate it accordingly without this underestimation. Like it can be better, or I saw better scenarios, or better pictures, or better activities, and everything else. So the huge part of this fraud syndrome is coming from the secret childhood, and I guess everybody faced with these three feelings like comparison, humiliation, and estimation in your childhood in some way. So it doesn't mean that your parents were bad and you feel it all the time. However, there was some events in life when you were compared to someone, you were humiliated. It may be not your parents, but other adults, some teachers, maybe in kindergarten or school, somewhere else, and underestimation. The second root, it's called pluralistic ignorance. It's very interesting effect. So what it is basically, it's social effect where group of interconnected members privately reject a statement but approve it publicly. It's very interesting. For example, let's discuss it. So my example, yeah. So when some newcomer BA is joining, for example, some project or some company or some product, and there's a group of BAs, for example, 5 or 6 person, and you're the seventh, and you come and you receive some, you're a newcomer and you receive some new task. It should be simple from the words of the manager, for example. And you trying to deal with it, and you understand that it's quite complicated, and you spend a lot of time for it. So you spend, for example, all weekend, your time on the weekend, and Monday morning you came to the office, or understanding our reality, you just opened your laptop and connected to some stand-up, and you feel that it was quite complex, and you spent a lot of time. However, you start joining to your stand-up, and you see that all of other BAs, for example, 5 or 6 people, their statement are quite easy. So the first BA is telling, so okay, I finished some feature on some epic and start working on the next one. The second BA tells pretty similar stuff, and the third and the fourth. So these 5 BAs work very efficiently, and they finish their work very easily. But you understand that you spent a lot of time on your task, and you start feeling that they may be more mature than you are, and maybe it's not the best project for you. Maybe you're not so good because you spent your weekend. However, they publicly showing that everything is fine. However, the point here, the trick here, that these guys may also spend a lot of time in private, and you don't know that they were spending the same weekend as you on the work, and maybe they even ask some help from others, something like that. So publicly, they have some statements that everything is fine, it's very easy, and you have the same public statement. However, you also have a private statement, and you understand that you spent a lot of time. However, you have no their private statement because it's private. That's why you can feel that you're not so good, because you have this understanding of your private statement, but you don't know others' private statement. That's why this pluralistic ignorance is shown up, and you need to understand that everything that others people, for example, others peers, folks are telling you, or not you are telling the same meeting, for example, to the stakeholders, to the management, you need to understand that it's not all of the truth. Yeah, so it's like a 50% of truth, for example, because there's always a private statement that you will never know until you're close friends, for example. Yeah, and for newcomers, it's very real case scenario, for example, because people are used to work this way, so they're just thinking and they just publicly showing that everything's fine. However, they have facing the same problems in private, and when you're a newcomer, you don't know this, you don't have this proper relationships with others, so you don't know the real truth, and that's why you can feel this so-called fraud syndrome. And here another example on pluralistic ignorance, more global. Let me move my video. Okay, so let's assume we have some new initiative. For example, it may be new project, new product rollout, or some new company. For example, new company. So you are wanting to go to some new company. Let it be, I don't know, top 10 company, top 10 world company, technology company, and you're a BA. And we have 3 phases: initiation, enrolling, and assimilation. Yeah, and on initiation phase, you're thinking, okay, I want to join this new company, for example, and you start reading some reviews from peers, reading some articles on some press, and it's very interesting because you're reading. Okay, let it be some company like Google, Facebook, EPAM, or others, and you're reading that. Okay, so it's very complex. There's very complex interviewing process. So you need to be very qualified professional to join them, because it's very serious. So the company is very serious. You understanding that the expectation of your, for example, level of profession, it's 10, for example, okay? And you think that you will never deal with it because it's too complicated, because you're reading and everybody telling you that, come on, you need to learn a lot in order to send the CV, for example, to this company. And you have some wrong expectations that all of the employees and all of the level is very high. Yeah, so only genius can join this company. However, when you start continuing with this initiative and you, for example, send a CV to the company, you are invited to some interview, so you're jumping into enrolling phase, and you see that upon interview, so everything is pretty fine. So people are polite, so questions are quite proper, and you can answer them, and it's not so bad as was expected in the initiation phase. So you start understanding that this expectation level of genius is quite overestimated. So basically, people are not so genius, but they are regular people as you are. And when you pass the interview, so you're on board, you jump into the latest phase called assimilation. So you adapt it and you work, for example, I don't know, maybe from week to months in this new big company. And here you understand that your level, for example, let it be 4, it's a regular level and all other people are the same level. So this interest is heading from some articles, from some, I don't know, some fake reviews maybe of some people who didn't pass, for example, because they were not mature enough. But you can see in reality that the people are the same as you are. So for example, let it be 4th level, and you understand that all of the time they were the same level. So let it be 4. On all of the phases. So initiation, they was the same. Enrolling, they was the same. And only when you assimilated here and adapted here, you understood it. Because when you were just initiating the process, you have only public statement, but you have private statement, because private statement is shown up here. And that's the point. So even if you have some initiative and you feel that it's not, maybe it's not yours, you need to think twice and understand that there's always a public statement and there's always a private statement, and you need to consider both of them. Moving next, the next route called secondary gain. It's very interesting psychological effect, I would say. So the point here is seeking for the hidden discredited context, which may lead to feeling fraud syndrome, encouraging avoidance. So the idea that you may have use some secondary gain, for example, in your current company. For example, you have loose schedule. For example, you spend less time on the project activities, and okay, under COVID time. So for example, you join, come to office at 12 p.m. Not 9 a.m. but 12 p.m. for example, and leaving the office at 5 p.m. not 6 p.m. for example, or you spend too much time on coffee drinking and chatting with your peers, and it's not only 1 hour lunchtime, but you spend a lot of time, for example, on just chatting and drinking some coffee, and then you make your work fine on a decent level, and you receive some reward, for example, from your manager, and he's telling, for example, Jan, let it be you. So Jan, you're a good guy, you receive here your, I don't know, some medal, some trophy, and you're polishing it, and in some moment you understand, come on, it can be true, because I have some secondary gains. You don't think like that, but you somewhere underneath you understand that, come on, I'm spending not much time, so I'm leaving early, I'm always late, I spend 30% of my time drinking coffee and talking to others, and I'm receiving some trophy. It can be me, it can be about me, because I'm not so good. And then you need to understand that, yeah, so first you need to identify it, so you have some secondary gains that may affect your understanding. And then you need to understand the simple truth that it's not always the truth that even if you have some secondary gains, it's not always leading to some low performance, for example. So even if you're drinking a lot of coffee, you may be very efficient, and this trophy can be yours. So it's not always about being in time from 9 to 6 is synonym of being efficient. So you may be efficient if even considering your, for example, time to coffee. And maybe because of this time to coffee, you are quite efficient and this trophy is yours. So you need always to find the secondary gain. And when you can identify them, it will be easy to you to understand it and then to create some patterns. So even if, yeah, I have this, this, and this, it's not always bad because it may be heading me to the success. And the next one has this very nice title called Everything's Conditional. And yeah, it's very wide scenario, wide case, but it is. So everything's conditional, and lack of unambiguous criteria makes us feeling confused, and it's true. So for example, in base practice, we have Bayberg to lean on. Yeah, it's a single point of truth. But we have a lot of other things like trends, environments that make it complex. Like the example here, I know everything, but my colleague has greater authority. So let me show an example. Yeah, here it is. I will be moving my and Jan's camera. Okay, so an example, yeah, are you better? Do we have, for example, 4 peers? So you join some project with 4 BAs or product owners or product managers in a row. And as an example, we, for example, have 4 skills, 4 necessary skills, like skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, and skill 4. We won't separate it right now and divide the hard soft skills. Let it be just 4 skills. And you see that, for example, you have 3 skills like applicable to you, and only one is somewhere not polished enough. However, all other peers are not well matured as you are. So they have some gaps. For example, peer 3 have 3 gaps. So it's very, very mathematical example. However, it should be understandable. So for example, peer 3 have 3 skills, has 3 gaps in 3 skills. However, he has greater authority within stakeholders, for example, area. And you're thinking, come on, I know a lot of, for example, elicitation techniques, and I know how to participate workshops. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. However, peer 3 didn't know anything of it. So he's just can speak flawlessly, and he knows some jokes, for example. And the idea here is that everything is conditional, and within a particular context, within a particular project, we have no checklist of what we should do. So we have basically some basic information. So you need to know some technology to fit in this project, for example. However, the context is wider, and sometimes the soft skills matters. For example, within this project, hard skills are not well needed. However, soft skills are far more crucial within this project. And that's why peer 3 is very efficient in it, and he can communicate with stakeholders, he can understand them and working very efficiently, even if he has more gaps than you are. And that's the point. So there is no checklist, and you need to understand context, and don't try to compare yourself to some someone, because there is no, and you always will face with some different areas, environments, contexts, small contexts within some big contexts, and you just need to understand what is needed right now and try to not compare yourself. Because, for example, in the next project or in the next company or in the next initiative, your skills may be more important than, for example, peer 3, and you will have some greater authority. So the point here is to understand that don't try to compare yourself. So you just need to understand what is needed and try to fit it. Okay, so we have discussed some routes. So of course, it's not all of the routes that are applicable to us because it's more about to be psychological subject and it's very wide. So we can't discuss everything at once. However, I distinguished, I guess, the more important things to discuss. And let's now try to find some solution. So you face this syndrome, you understand some roots, and you can identify that, okay, I feel because of this, and this root. Okay, it's fine. So you have a question, what to do next, basically, yeah, how to deal with it. And so the next section called solutions, let's discuss how to deal with it. The first technique, I would say, and it's very effective. Let me move our video to the bottom. It's called play role. It's very efficient, I would say. I saw it a lot of times with my subordinates, for example, or folks. So it's very efficient. So the main idea is pretense and simulation. So pretending towards expected level will make others treat you accordingly, and you will feel better eventually. So, for example, you are a middle business analyst, for example, and you receive some award, for example, and you feel that, okay, it's not about me, so it was just a random success. And then, of course, you receive some new task, and it's very interesting, complex task, like a senior task, and you feel, come on, I can't handle it. So it's not a good point to give it to me. Better to give it to Jan, for example. He'll work it, and everything will be fine. And here, in this moment, you need to use this technique, play a role. So you need to pretend that you are, for example, a senior analyst, and you can work and you can do it accordingly. So like wear some mask, for example. Yeah, so you need to wear the senior mask on your head and start working. And when you will prepare some outcomes, you will prepare some documents, for example. So you will finish with this task, and you will see how other will treat you. So you will receive some good feedback from the stakeholders. They will say, okay, perfect enough. So we have this task, you finished it, it's on a decent level, so we are happy with you, and you will understand. So, okay, you are a middle BA, for example, with a mask of seniority, and you pretend that you can do it, and you do it, and everybody's satisfied because it is on the decent level. And then you will understand. So it's only about your fear. So you can reach this task, you can do it easily, and everything fine. So the problem was not because you're not mature enough. The problem was in your fear. And when you just pretend that you can make it, and you made it, and everybody satisfied, you will understand, and you will have some feeling of simplicity that, okay, so it was pretty easy, yeah, and I I wasn't pointed out, so everybody was satisfied, and it's perfect. And then when others will treat you as a more mature, you will understand that, okay, so there's no place for fear. I can make it, and I can receive this award because maybe I'm not so bad enough. The next one, pretty understandable, evaluate contribution. So main idea here is to assess the efforts and outcomes in time. And yeah, so for example, to see the overall picture, like global delivery, and not a narrow view of specific task. So the idea is that okay, let's continue the example. So like whole project driven with the help of a single BA or a PDM whose strategy helped to launch a product on the competitive market despite local operative failures. So the idea here is that we, in the context of business analysis practice, we are looking to a narrow view all the time. So for example, we have some task or some feature that BAs, or maybe it will be some operational flow for product manager, for example, and we try to launch this feature, and you have some failures, for example, it's not very successful, for PDMs, or there were some issues with communication as a BA, for example, with stakeholders for some feature, and you feel, come on, so we have a lot of problems here, and maybe it's because I can't handle it again because I'm not well mature enough, and you need to switch from the narrow view to the overall picture, and here's this approach will help to you. So evaluate contribution. You need to see the whole picture, and then it will be easier to understand that considering the whole picture, one small failure is not mattering. So if you have some problems with, I don't know, some particular epic or some particular feature, when you will evaluate your overall contribution, you will see, come on, okay, I'm a BA working for 5 years on some big project, for example, or I'm PDM launching some project, and you will see that 95% of everything you've done is very successful. So people are using it. For example, some product is very successful on the competitive market, so everything is fine. And only one operational failure is not crossing it over, and you need to understand. So when you see this overall picture, it will be easier for you to understand, because we as a people, the humanity, we tend to see only a narrow view. It is within our heads, so we can't do anything about it. So if you work, for example, closely to some specific area, and of course the failure of this area will affect you. However, you need to remember that all of previous hard work was successful. So we can be successful all the time. Of course, we have some issues, we have some problems, for dozens of reasons, and the point here is to compare. Small problem, small issue can't cross everything else, all of this previous success. And here is the idea. So you think that you are not well good enough, however, you are good enough, only with some small issues that can be fixed, for example. So it's not a big problem. And when you are gathering all the information and you see that everything was made by you, you have prepared perfect documentation, you've prepared perfect product, it's launched, it's competitive. For example, the audience of your product is counted by thousands of people, so everything is fine, and it's your particular success, and only small issues won't cross it anywhere. So you need to remember it. The next one is feedback evaluation, also very effective, I would say, approach. So the idea here, you need to request unbiased feedbacks to see the real picture, and these regular feedbacks from peers and stakeholders or other people are very crucial. So the idea, if you feel bad in terms of that you are not well good enough, you need to, for example, you may face and work within some context with set of people. And for example, these people may be toxic enough, and they telling that you are not good, there's also some issue, and the pace of the project is telling you that you are quite slow, for example. So eventually you will feel bad and you will feel this fraud syndrome. And idea here is to request several unbiased feedbacks. Of course, it shouldn't be your mother, for example, or your wife or your husband. It should be somebody who you're working with. However, it may be client representatives or some managerial staff or some other folks you worked before, or some guys you help to mentor them or something like that. So the idea, it shouldn't be very specific. So you need to have wider audience within your initiative. And then when you will ask this feedback, so for example, peers, stakeholders, representatives, managerial staff, delivery project managers, subordinates, I don't know, anything else. When you will receive these feedbacks from different people from different areas of the project or some other initiative, and the vast majority of feedbacks will be the same. So they will be saying something like, Jan is a perfect BA, so everything is fine. He's working smoothly and it's very efficient, you will see that, okay, so the wider global picture and it's different from what you have right now within some your narrow view again. Yeah, so maybe there's a toxic people, maybe it's very complex initiatives, maybe there are some other issues. However, when you have this overall feedbacks from different people, from different players, from different tiers, and they have the same opinion about you that you are good enough, it make a sense because you are good enough. So there are some um, small area where we can have issues and you may feel this fraud syndrome. However, when you will receive all of these feedbacks from different and biased people, and you will be more confident when you understand that, yeah, so, okay, maybe some particular person, or maybe it can be a very difficult client, for example, that is telling that you're always wrong, you're doing everything that is not expected from you. And you may think sometimes that, come on, maybe my knowledge, I'm not polished enough, maybe I should do it in another way. But when you will receive all the feedbacks and everybody will agree on the point that you're good enough and everything you do is perfect or good, okay, not perfect but good, you understand that the problem maybe not in you, however, in this particular client representative, for example, because he's expecting something else. It's fine. So people are different and expectations are different. And yeah, maybe you need to adapt to it. However, you will understand that it's not because you have some issues in your knowledge, for example, but it's because the particular context requires some adaptation. That's all. So it's a very effective, I would say, approach to use. And the last for today, I guess, called Keep in Mind. So it's, I guess, pretty easy to understand. So the idea that awareness is a core element towards the problem solving. So people who knows about fraud syndrome can easily associate it and assign problems to it. So when you understand that, when you face with this feeling and with some problem, and when you are aware that it may be fraud syndrome, and you know some roots and you can identify them, and you can create this logical pattern, the logical flow, it's easy to you to understand. You can understand, okay, yeah, it may be because I'm newcomer, I don't see private statements. It can be because there are some toxic people. It can be because there are some issues from my childhood, for example. And when you know about it, when you can accumulate this information, it's easy to understand and easy to resolve these issues. So when you know, when you're aware of this, you can treat it accordingly. And yeah, so knowing the problem is a halfway to success. Yeah. So summary. It will be a short summary. Yeah. So you need to observe. You need to investigate. You need to have doubts, of course, but not let the doubts control you. So the idea, you may be wrong, of course. We are not perfect. However, you need to be sure that it's a common decision that it is the issue. It's not understanding or some external factors affecting you. So you need to have these doubts, of course, but you need to check them, identify, and try to fix them, basically. Of course, sharing is a method number one, I would say, because, for example, you need to establish some relationships, as in my first example. Yeah, if you see that private statement is closed for you because you are a newcomer, it may be a good point to share it with, for example, I don't know, your friends, or maybe your managerial staff, your managers, or maybe some leads, if you have somebody to talk with. And then you will see that, okay, these private statements of others will be open to you, and you will see that people are struggling as well as you. So they also spend more time, for example. You will understand that you are on the same level as from my next example. So you understand that everybody pretty the same. I mean, in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, for example, it will be easier for you to deal with it. And of course, engage. So you don't need to hide it. You don't need to trying to go away from it. You need to understand, identify it, and mitigate this. And considering all of this, it will be easier to you to succeed as a BA, as a product owner, or as a product manager. So I guess that's all for today. I hope you like it. I hope it will be very efficient to use. So if you, and as I saw from the Minty.com, that there's a lot of people who faced it, even if doesn't know that this is a problem, this is a so-called fraud syndrome. But the vast majority have faced it, and I hope my understanding of the problem and some solutions will help you to mitigate it in future and to be more successful than you are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gennadii, for the very interesting topic and for a great presentation today. However, we still have a lot of questions from our participants in the portal. So the first question, the most voted one that we have received so far, is the question: when dealing with the fraud syndrome, how not to come to the overestimation of your skills and your level? Can you give any tips to the participants of our today's meeting?
Overestimation, yeah, is a key success. So, as I see from my practice and from, for example, my peers and subordinates, overestimation is not a problem, because when you overestimate your skills, you will always face to some issues, to some barriers, for example. So if you think that you are capable enough to do something that you are not actually, so you will face with problems, or it will be hard to you. And yeah, so some external factors will put you a bit down, and it's fine. So the issue here, so it's a regular process. So we try to do something new, something to achieve more. Then we understand, okay, there's a problem, I'm not well measured enough, so I'm learning, trying again, again understand that it's a problem. The issue here, and the fraud syndrome as well, then when I'm trying to achieve more and somebody or some external factor tells me in some way that I'm not good enough, the point that I need to go downstairs, but not to the previous level, but not down. Yeah, so the problem here is to understand your current level, and when you go further, somebody told you, some set of factors told you that, okay, it's not the time, so you need to be more confident, you need to learn more, you need to go to the previous staircase, for example, but not down, so, and that's a problem. So when people trying to achieve something, they understand, okay, it was too early, I am not well confident enough, and they're closing right now, so they go downstairs to the previous levels, and they're afraid to come back and to try again. So this is a problem. And about overestimation, I don't think there's a problem, even if you will overestimate your skills. So the reality, you polished it and you will come back, and it's fine. It's a natural process. You need to do that. You need to feel and to receive some feedback that it's not the time. It's not a problem. The problem is to continue and not to go backwards.
Another question on the other side of the scale. So overestimation is one thing, but how to stay self-confident and how to not lose faith in your skills and capabilities in case you receive reasonably bad feedback?
It's a very good question. Yes, so I guess it's a point of another huge presentation, a huge topic to discuss: how to be motivated in terms of if you receive bad feedback. The same, so you need to understand the nature of this feedback. So if it's reasonable feedback, so there are some unbiased people telling you that you need to learn this and this, and you understand it's not because somebody very toxic or very biased by design. So if you see that, okay, it makes sense, then you need to again understand that it's a flow, so it's a staircase. You need to go further, and it's fine. And this feedback is very crucial and very important for you, because if you will go and there won't be these people who can tell you that you have some failures and you need to learn, it will be a problem further. So if you receive this bad feedback, I guess you just need to treat it as a point to improve, as something very crucial. So you need to say thank you to this guy because yeah, you see the problem and others see the problem. So the first phase is identifying the problem is finished. So you have it and you just need to polish it. So you need to learn to get some more skills. And it's far more better than if nobody will tell you the truth and everybody just will come on, go, go, go. And somewhere in the end of the staircase, you understand that it's not a fraud syndrome, it's a real problem. You don't know nothing. So I guess the point of motivation is just to you have new points to learn. So,
and also when it comes to dealing with people in your unit, if you are the line manager and you are responsible for the people growth and people development, how to identify and how to help people overcome the fraud syndrome that they might be experiencing?
I guess most crucial advice is to talk with people, of course. So it's very difficult to have some pattern. So of course you can send the link to this presentation to them, and they can watch it and understand everything. However, yeah, I guess there is no pattern how to understand. So it's using this advice you can understand, reflecting it on your own. However, if you need to understand your subordinates, your peers, I guess the best scenario is just to talk. So if you see the performance, you see the feedbacks, so you have all of the tools as I described here. So you just need to project it on your subordinates and just talk, because not just to send and forward the email with the feedbacks to your subordinates and just okay, deal with it. You need to talk like, okay, we have pretty good feedbacks. How do you feel? How do you feel on your project, on current project? So everything's fine or not? Do you feel confident? Because considering these feedbacks, everybody's satisfied. So if you have some doubts, let's discuss it, something like that. So it's very individual, and yeah, you need to have some time to talk with the people, but communication is a matter. So I guess nothing else.
Do you think the same approach would be beneficial if you are a parent and you are identifying the fraud syndrome within your children?
Yeah. So we didn't talk about it because it's like fraud syndrome in PA's practice. However, yes, so pattern is the same. So, and I guess it's very, very crucial to talk with your kids as well. So if they're feeling some obstacles, you need to understand. And I don't know, so there may be some different aging matters, like some small kids, toddlers, and some youngsters. However, I guess some patterns will be the same. If it works, so why not? So the same communication and unbiased feedbacks, like personal unbiased feedbacks, of course, not as we have in our working activities.
And my last question is, what made you decide to investigate this topic, and what made you actually interested in the fraud syndrome in the first place?
I guess the first place was that I have faced it a lot of times personally. Then I noticed same patterns in my subordinates, within some peers in different projects. That's why I started thinking about it. And I guess that we have a lot of information considering hard skills of the BA's practice, and these subjects are very open right now. However, the soft skills and some communication patterns are very crucial as well. And for example, our community doesn't have a lot of them, and I think that it's a very good starting point to start investigate it and share it with the community. So yeah, it's very good. So I guess there is a lot of people, my peers, for example, who are talking about how crucial to know how to work as a BA, like what technique should be, and it's very crucial. And so it's perfect.
Definitely, I agree. And I was also, dealing inside my unit as well. Even in the past, I was dealing with this as well, like thinking that my best isn't my good enough. So definitely, this is a very eye-opening topic for many people who decided to join our today's event. So being conscious
That's why
of the
I
time,
chosen, yeah.
yeah, definitely very useful. So being conscious of the time, I would like to, for now, thank you so much once again for the presentation. It has been very useful. I would like to thank all the people who decided to participate in the chat and also shared your questions with us. And I still encourage everyone to participate in other topics that we have presented for you today and tomorrow. We still have lots of interesting topics on the agenda, such as why should we care about the BA staffing? What is the, for example, self-education for product managers, or how to improve your skills and increase your speed learning for business analysts that we have planned for today. So for now, Gennadii, once again, thank you so much for the participation in the topic. Thank you for being with us, to all of the audience and participants of today's meeting. And I hope to see you again in the future talks and future events, either on this conference or the next one.
Thanks for the audience, yeah, for your time. Thanks, Jan.